Okay, so today we have with us Randa Johnson. She's the Assistant Director of Graduate Programs and Off-Campus Internships here at Clemson's Center for Career and Professional Development. And today she is going to present on core competencies and why they matter. So Randa, I'll let you take it from here.
Perfect. Thank you, Heather. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen real quick. Pull up. Perfect. So you guys should be able to see that. So we are going to go over core competencies and kind of, why, what we want you guys to think about as you're thinking about interviews, internships, going on, what your career is going to be after Clemson. So as I said, my name is Randa Johnson. I work with off-campus internships and also work with the graduate students here at Clemson. We're going to use something called Mentimeter. So if you want to go ahead and get your phone out or, another tab on your computer, we are going to have a couple of questions throughout the presentation. If you're in the PDC certificate program, we really kind of expect you to participate and kind of help answer these questions as part of your development for the certificate. If you're not, I encourage you to do as well. So you're going to go ahead and go to menti.com and you're going to enter in that code there, and you'll be able to kind of enter this first question, just kind of give me an idea of who's here today. Because I know we have a lot of graduate students and undergrads in the PDC program. And this will help me with my examples of the competencies and just kind of get an idea of, of who all is here today. So I'll give you guys a second to log on. Again, you're going to go to menti.com on your phone and then enter that code, which is the 17926035. And we'll have a couple of these. We have a couple at the beginning just to give, kind of go through, and then a couple at the end and throughout, just kind of help you guys go through some of these concepts and kind of practice them as we're going along. Perfect. So it looks like we have a pretty even group, just about of undergrad and graduate students. I will try to keep that in mind with my examples, and we'll go ahead and do one more of these right now. And what we're going to do is I want you really to think about, this is a very common interview question that you guys will get is, tell me about yourself. Specifically, what aspect of your personality adds the most value to any team? So you can go ahead and enter just, a word, a short sentence of what aspect of your personality adds the most value. Perfect. There's some coming in now. So flexibility, adaptability. You're going to see those come back around here later in this presentation. Kindness, I really love that one. Effectively problem solve, being well organized. Team worker, right? Being able to fit into the team and be able to help get your team goals. Working under pressure, being able to think when the situation might be a little bit less than ideal. Discipline, that's a great one. Again, problem solving, we'll see these come back a little bit later. Facilitating healthy discussions. That one is great as well. Effective delegation and collaboration. Perfect. Awesome. Thank you guys for participating. So we're going to see, again, these are things that we're going to see come up of, keep these in mind. Of this is kind of where we're starting off at. These are things that you guys have put down of like, this is what really helps me when I'm in a team situation. I'm working on a team. So again, as you guys know, the CCPD, we're really focused on helping empower you to be successful, right? So we're not just, helping you place you into positions or anything like that. We really want to make sure we give you the skills that are going to help you in your future positions, your life after Clemson, right? So not just that first one, but every position afterwards. And so that's part of what these competencies are going to help you with, is really help you articulate your skills and kind of describe how what you've been doing in your, at school, in your clubs, in your program, your academic program, and how making sure you know how to translate that into the career space on your resume, in your personal statement, in interviews. So we really value our diverse student body here at Clemson, and we really want to make sure that we're able to help you wherever you are. And if you attend any of our webinars or anything like that, and you have any comments or anything like that, if we can help you in any other way, please let us know. So again, the CCBD makes up of the Mission Career Center, which is where Heather and I sit, as well as UPIC, which is an undergraduate internship program. if you are an undergraduate student and you haven't had an internship yet, this is a really great opportunity. As well as the co-op education program, which is a more extensive internship long-term program over multiple semesters. So this is kind of who we are, and we're all really focused on these competencies and helping you guys get experiences to then be able to help show that you're ready, kind of help you with that next step. So we have another question here, kind of thinking about, what your internships or if you're closer to graduating your full-time position, what do employers want most in a candidate? What do you guys think that they're looking for? Perfect. Yes, I'm coming in. Willingness to learn, right? Being open to learning new ways of doing things. Again, dependability is popping up a lot. Being adaptable, reliable. Strong work ethic. Willingness to ask questions, right? So being open to, I want to ask this question, and it may sound like a silly question to somebody who's been in this industry for 40 years, but that's a really important part of being able to learn. Work independently without supervision. That can be really important in a lot of workspaces. Working well with others, integrity. Having some experience can be really, really important for a lot of positions. Perfect. So we're going to look at these. You're going to notice a lot of these themes popping up in our core competencies. So we have 9 of them. Those are the 9 things that are below each. So the orange words are the buckets that we have for the competencies. So engagement, innovation, and professionalism, really just kind of areas of kind of collecting these 9 competencies and kind of organizing them. Well, the 9 competencies are those things with the bullets. So communication, collaboration, leadership, adaptability, analytical skills and technology, self-awareness, integrity, ethics, and brand. So these are, probably some of these are not very surprising to you. These are 9 things that we have worked with our employers and our faculty members for graduate programs as well, to see what they're looking for, right? To have some skills that we're able to help you guys articulate when you get into these interviews, when you're working on your resume. So again, having communication skills is probably not a surprise for you, being one of these competencies. But we're going to go through each of these sections, talk about the competencies, talk about some examples. I'm going to ask you guys to reflect a little bit and then share a little bit about your experiences with them and kind of your growth in them. So when I talk about competencies, this is really where skills, knowledge, attitude, behavior all meet. A great example that some of my office use all the time is when you think about I want to live a healthy lifestyle. I have the knowledge of how to do it. I have the skills of how to do it, but if I don't have also the behavior reinforcing it, then I'm not really going to be able to get that end goal of having a healthy lifestyle. So kind of really think about this is where you're being very intentional of growing and of identifying these competencies. So as I said, this is going to be really helpful in that process of, getting ready for applying to jobs, interviewing. Again, once you're in the job offer, these competencies don't really go away. You still want to identify them and work on them so you're able to, and then, develop professionally and then kind of get that next step in your career goals. So really it's introducing your personal self. You're going to highlight those experiences you have. That articulation is really what these competencies are supposed to help you with, right? Help you talk about, this is my PhD program. This is the things I've learned being a graduate research assistant, and this is how it applies to this position I'm applying for. Again, demonstrating the impact and the outcomes of your work. So we're going to go ahead and get started in that first bucket of engagement. The first one is communication, and this goes beyond the first competency is communication. So this goes beyond just, can I speak well? Can I present well? It goes more, it's more into, yes, email, but also those nonverbal cues. Can I speak with somebody outside of my industry, right? Can I explain what I'm doing in the STEM field to somebody who is, I'm a history major, so I always use history majors as an example, but somebody who's a history major, can I explain what I'm doing, what my research is effectively to them? That is really showing your communication competency very well. And really what you're doing is you're adjusting your style and kind of adjusting the content for the audience. A great example of this is, let's say you're a math tutor and you tutor Calc 2, but you also tutor Math 101. how you're going to go about a certain concept or how you're even going to start that tutoring session is really going to have a lot of, you're going to think a lot about how this person's going to be able to communicate with you. Someone who's in Math 101 may not have the, will probably not have the same level of understanding of mathematical concepts. So you're really going to have to start very intentionally from level 1. So it's really kind of focusing on, again, adjusting that style and content for that audience, but also, trying to be proactive and trying to anticipate how that person you're communicating with, what reaction they might have or what, how it might affect them, and really focus on providing that smooth communication and that dialogue that's really going to be productive and really going to help them. Another big part of this is also providing and receiving feedback. So that's going to be a lot when you get to the workplace of being able to have that communication, receive the feedback, and then use your other competencies. We'll talk about analytical skills here in a second to really, act upon it. So our next competency is on engagement is collaboration. And this is teamwork. A lot of you mentioned teamwork is being able to work on a team is really important, that you feel like that's something that you bring to your positions, but also it's something that employers are looking for. And it's not only working well with people, but it's taking responsibility for your role within a team. It's choosing to, build those authentic and beneficial relationships. It's not only just, taking care of yourself, making sure you're doing your role, but also encouraging others to contribute. That you're seeking to learn from others, right? You're not just kind of stagnating of like, oh, I know exactly how to do this, but I'm going to learn from everyone in the group. Maybe there's a better way. Maybe there's a way we can combine our methods to, better our project and get to the end goal, either more efficiently or with a better outcome. So the example I use for this often is the group project, because a lot of our students have group projects while they're in undergrad or even when grad school, you might have this as well. And, maybe somebody isn't, maybe somebody is just not responding. They're not turning their stuff in on time. And, you really have to think about it. This is also, the next one's going to be leadership as well. This is a great example for both because it's, you're that one person that won't respond, they just haven't turned anything in. So what you're really thinking about for the collaboration part is, I need to encourage this person to help and contribute. Like maybe I don't know exactly what's going on. So I'm going to reach out to them, and they email back that they actually had a death in the family and, they just don't know where to go from here. They know they're letting people down, but they just don't know how to get there. And that shows a lot of leadership as well on your part, because you're not just, and leadership goes beyond just that, you're going to be a president of a club or, just having that leadership title, but it's really those characteristics and acting on them that help define that leadership, right? So you're really going to help recognize and develop it, like, okay, this person needs help. This is how I can, pull other people from the team, be like, hey, our teammate needs help. This is how we can utilize different strengths within our team and really make sure we get across the goal line for this group project while bringing this person who needed really a hand up. So that would be a really great example, again, for both collaboration, but also, into leadership. And it's encouraging others, it's encouraging discussion. We can, express different views. You can really break down and empower others for shared visions, and also making sure there's shared credit for all the work that is done. But it's also that planning, the traditional planning, initiating, kind of, you think about project management and things like that. So again, that group project example, the person not only showed collaboration because, she reached out to her group member like, hey, we really need to figure out what's going on, but it's also leadership as well. And a lot of these examples, sometimes you'll think about something that you've done, and it's not just one competency you're showing. It is multiple, because they work, together for different aspects. All right, so I'm gonna give you guys a minute or so to kind of think about this. I want you to think about a time when you felt heard, supported, or valued. We'll have 3 of these kind of looking back slides at the end of every competency group. And really, the idea of this is that this is a question that you could get on an interview. I want you to thinking about those 3 competencies. So communication, collaboration, leadership, kind of highlight that in your mind when you're thinking about this. But, a time when you felt heard, supported, or valued, what challenges were you facing? Consider the person or people who helped you feel this way. What did they say or do? And how did you move through your challenge as a result of their support? So I'm gonna put about a minute on my clock here. And if you want to just jot this down in a notebook or just think about it, and we'll come back, we'll have kind of some time to share what you guys might think about this. All right, so as you guys are thinking about this, we have another Menti slide for you, kind of a brainstorm, thinking about those answers you just had to that prompt, how have you just demonstrated proficiency in communication, collaboration, or leadership? So this is, you can write a small sentence, doesn't have to be that long, but what are some examples of how you've demonstrated this proficiency? And it can be one of them, it can be, this is how I've done communication, collaboration. So kind of go ahead and share a sentence or two, kind of how you've demonstrated this proficiency. Okay, we already have one answer coming in. So again, asking questions, right? That is a great example of communication and collaboration, right? Really, understanding what the task is really going to help a team succeed in their task, but also, certain point leadership as well. Asking a question maybe other people don't want to ask or might be intimidated to ask can really be helpful for that. Perfect. Establishing a resource network in your program. That is a great example of not only communication, but also, collaboration. All three really are hit by that. Being a TA, it's a great example as well. Delegating research tasks. And being proactive, right? Not waiting till maybe the last 3 days before a group project is due, be like, hey guys, we should probably get started on this. But really reaching out early, that's a great example of communication and really thinking about how, to best get the job done. Now look, good examples of delegating. Resolving conflicts. That's a really important skill to have in a lot of areas. A lot of career spaces is really going to be an important one to develop, but also kind of understand that's going to be a great one as well to help answer interview questions that you might have. I've actually had interview questions like, tell me a time where you had to resolve conflict or you had and so you didn't get along with somebody or something like that. Like this, that could be a great, start thinking about how you might answer some of those questions. Perfect. Thank you guys for sharing so much. Stepping up when no one else will. I feel like that's happened multiple times, right? So it's kind of, you don't know exactly why no one else will, but, having those leadership and having, being confident in these competencies and being like, I feel like I can handle what's coming for this. Perfect. Thank you guys so much for participating. We'll have 2 more of these after the next 2 sets of our competencies. So the next batch is called the innovation. I think of it as kind of like buckets. So innovation bucket, the first one is adaptability. And this is something that you guys have mentioned multiple times earlier when we were asking about, what do you bring, being flexible, right? What are employers looking for? They're looking for that adaptability. So this is not just, this is obviously being flexible of when something goes wrong or being able to be creatively, it's being able to creatively think of new approaches to really, continue the project, continue the program that you're on and have it be, be a success. It's allowing for the action, the reflection, the failure, and being resilient, right? So part of this is also failing. So it's important to remember that Failure is a part of learning, right? So that's part of the being adaptable. It's seeking out to enhance your skill set, really being proactive and trying to anticipate some changes in your industry or your disciplines, and acknowledging there could be new ways, really learning from those around you. So example I use for here is maybe you're a graduate teaching assistant or a tutor, an undergrad, and you're trying to teach a student a specific mathematical concept and they are just not getting it. So you're like, okay, they're not getting it. I need to figure out how else I can try to explain this. So you're like, okay, let me come at it from this angle. They're still not getting it. Okay, let me try this one, right? You're really, flexing that creative skills and thinking to try to be adaptable. This is not how I normally teach this concept, but how I normally do it is not working. So I'm really going to, show that, try to anticipate how the student, this is also showing off those communication skills, anticipate how the student's going to react and try to really focus and be, proactive and try to help the student get this concept in the end. So this is a really important one. A lot of employers might ask you, tell me about a time that you were flexible. Tell me about a time that you adapted to an unknown circumstance or a challenge that appeared in a project. So this can be a really important one to think about and kind of think about where you can best show this competency with your experiences. And another one is that, is important, analytical skills. And this is, it's critical thinking, right? It's problem solving. You're put up with a problem or a challenge and you have to get around it. So, how am I going to obtain the information, process it, synthesize it, and really come out with the best solution for my team and for me personally to try to get around this challenge that we're having. So again, it's, you're critically examining the problems and developing solutions. Your important part of this is weighing options by considering the impact on people, on other people around you, right? So maybe this is going to solve your challenge, but it adds to your neighbor's challenge, right? So you want to really think about how are my actions going to impact those around me? That's a big part of this. It's making recommendations, and it's also promoting the culture where people they feel empowered to identify and solve problems, right? If they notice something that maybe isn't quite right, they're not scared to be like, hey, I think something's wrong, right? So you really want to be empowering those people to be able to, your coworkers, be able to identify and solve these problems. So an example of this, I feel like I've talked with the student is they were a tutor here, actually a different university I used to work for, and a student came in and they blamed them for the grade. They were tutoring them in English. They gave them advice of this is, the best way to do a certain paper. The student came in, completely ignored everything, turned in the project, and they failed. And they came back and they said, hey, you gave me this advice and it didn't, I blame you for the grade that I got. No, really what the student has to think about, like you have to think about in this situation is, I'm having a live conversation with this student. They're very upset. I'm in my place of employment, which is a tutoring office. And I want to make sure that not only, can I critical think and be like, I'm pretty sure I did not give them the advice that caused them to fail this paper, but let me think about how they could have misunderstood what I said. Really, focusing on that, critical thinking, analyzing, processing information, be like, have like, hey, let's talk about this because I want to make sure that that we understood each other, maybe something, misunderstood something. Let's talk about how you did this project and really go through and not only help yourself as a tutor, grow and maintain that level of professionalism that you want, but also, in your job, maintain the outcomes that you want, but also as a student of really helping them kind of process what it is that may have caused that grade to be failed. This is also helping with that communication skills because, a student is going to be very upset by a failed grade, but also something we're going to talk about later called brand. So it's really something that you want to make sure that you are maintaining your reputation and who you are in your workplace. And then the next one here is technology. So this goes beyond of just, can I use Zoom effectively? Can I use, the given program of my specific career path, right? So maybe some kind of architecture program or whatever it may be, Hootsuite for marketing, whatever it may be. Can I use that skill? But also goes beyond of, can I use that skill? Can I troubleshoot if I have an issue? Can I look at it and try to figure, use those critical thinking skills, try to figure out what's going wrong before contacting IT, right? That's a really important time-saving process, because not only does it help you think through the problem, be like, oh, I forgot to do this. Like, you can really learn more about it yourself by kind of investigating, but also saves some IT people's time, because a lot of times, they're one or two people and they're kind of overwhelmed. So that's a really important part of this. But also, can you serve as a resource as well for other people and really help them with their technology goals within your group? So example I use from this, if you're in that group project and you have somebody who, had to, that team member had to be gone at home, but they still want to participate now that you've gotten them back in, even though they had to be at home for a little while due to a death in the family. So really thinking about, what is the best piece of technology that we can use? Maybe it's Zoom, maybe it's Google Docs, we can all work on at the same time. Maybe it's a spreadsheet, or, kind of really thinking about how you can best, deploy some of these technologies to best get the end goal of not only completing the group project, but also keeping this group member engaged as well in it. So at the end of the innovation series, we only have one more left, but kind of think about, again, your work and volunteer experiences, your academic experiences. What was the time when you faced a challenge, right? What steps do you take to move forward? How did you make decisions on that? And how have you adjusted your goals and plans based off of this challenge? So again, I'm gonna give you guys a minute to think about this, and then we'll share here and then move on to our last set. All right, so thinking about that challenge and kind of, your adaptability, your analytical skills, your technology. There we go. How have you demonstrated these proficiencies in these three? So specifically thinking about adaptability, analytical skills, or technology. And again, you put a couple words, small sentence, but just kind of, where have you shown some proficiency in these skills? And we see a lot of examples of these in a creative inquiry or in a research as well. Yes, adapting to online learning during COVID. You guys have a really great example of that adaptability, but also technology skills, right? We were kind of, we had a very short amount of time to figure out how to best, conduct class, right? Kind of maintain our projects that we were on. Staying up to date with current methods, using your area of study. That's really important. Giving recommendations. Creating dashboards. That's a really great skill. Being able to show the analytical skills and often technology skills as well, because there's a lot of different ways you can use a dashboard. You can choose to create a dashboard. Synchronous and asynchronous classes, having multiple of different kinds can be very, you have to kind of stay on top of all of that. Learning new technology platforms. Perfect. Using Google Docs, right, is a great example of being able to collaborate and work on something at the same time. Many different platforms as well, but Google Docs is kind of a very, very common one. Excellent. This is a really great example. Someone who's more senior to you using, they're using equipment incorrectly, right? But it's difficult to have to, go up to somebody and, regardless, if you're just thinking about like your coworker, like, hey, you're doing this wrong, but even someone who's senior to you, that's even more daunting of a task. But being able to approach and be like, hey, I think this might, you might be using this wrong, is a really great example of communication as well, because you want to make sure you're doing it in a very appropriate, like, hey, I just kind of noticed that I think you might be using this wrong. I think, I've learned that, this is how you use it. And really approaching that from a really, learning standpoint, and that person probably really appreciated that you're able to do that. And your company as well, because sometimes if you use equipment wrong, you might accidentally break the equipment. So that's a really great example of that. We have technical skills, needing computer science. Yes, those are constantly changing. Power apps, other tech suites on jobs. Perfect. That being able to how much can I teach myself versus, and then double checking with my boss, like, hey, this is how I understand it. And it's really a great opportunity, not only to, show your adaptability, show your technology skills, critical thinking skills, but also to really save some time for your boss as well, to kind of be like, hey, let's do a follow-up meeting to make sure I understand that we're using this technology the same way, instead of like, hey, do a step-by-step process of how to do this as well. Perfect. Awesome. Thanks, guys. There's some really great examples. I really want you to think, when you're thinking about these, my goal for these questions is really help you start that process of, this is how I might answer that question if it was asked in an interview. And we're going to go on to this last one, professionalism. So we have 3 more to go. The first one is self-awareness. And this is really understanding yourself, your limitations, your emotions, your biases, and how to articulate these, but also articulate your skills and interests and values, and how that relates to your professional and personal goals. So it's really understanding yourself and like next to others as well. So it's kind of focusing on establishing your goals, reflecting on your progress, how you're going to adjust your behaviors based on that, reevaluating your goals as you hit new challenges, be like, hey, I didn't do as well there with a specific kind of project. Like, do I want to put forth the time to really perfect it and really get better at that kind of skill I needed to, or do I want to switch my goals to something that I think I might enjoy more? Managing your stress and emotions and interpreting the emotions of others. That can be really important when you're working on a team. Recognizing and overcoming biases. Also, working on parallel projects is understanding your own, make sure you're not overworked, making sure your time management, you're able to work on parallel projects well. An example of this is that, if you remember, we talked about that student with your adaptability of like, the student's just not getting this concept you're trying to teach them, whether it's a GA or as a tutor, and maybe you find yourself getting really frustrated of like, I don't understand how someone can't understand this, right? So you find maybe you have to watch how your emotions are coming across, because if you start to notice that I'm getting frustrated by this, the student also may have noticed it as well. And you really don't want that, because that is not, as your job as a GTA or a tutor, like that's really, your goal is to teach the student. That's really what you're both there for. But you want to make sure that, you're kind of able to read your emotions, but also able to interpret the emotions of the student. Are they getting really frustrated? You need to take a break. You want to be like, hey, let's take a second. Let's talk about the last football game, whatever else that you want to talk about. And then go back and be like, hey, okay, let's try this again from this new way and try it again. Or maybe say, hey, I think we could use a break. Let's set up another meeting, a different day, and take a break from this, and we'll come back to it, right? So really recognizing not only your own emotions, but also those of the student or whoever it is that you're working with around you. Our next one is integrity and ethics. So this is, making choices and consistently acting in a manner that displays your integrity and your ethics in a personal and professional setting. It goes beyond, just, being consistent in those choices. Being present and prepared is a great way to, at work, people at work, they want you to show up every day, be like, I'm here, I'm ready, I know what I need to do. That dependability, that was something that a lot of you said you bring to a team, and also that they're looking for, employers are looking for, is that dependability. You really want to make sure that you are acting equitably with integrity and accountability to yourself, to others, and to your organization. And it's also thinking about how your ethics and morals match that of your employers as well. That can be a very important thing to look at when you're looking at positions and looking at internships with companies, is like, how do my integrity and ethics match up to this company I'm looking at? So example of this is either, one example is like, maybe you're working in an office on campus, and it's really keeping the confidentiality of the students you're working with, right? Of the clients you're working with. So, even though maybe it is, I used to tutor athletes at a university I used to work for. So, I never could speak about who I was tutoring. I took that very seriously. So some people might say like, oh, I'm tutoring the quarterback for this school. Like, it's really cool. But like, that's, for me, that was not, I was there to help the student get through his class. I was not there to brag that I knew this student, that we met, 3 times a week, because that was really something I found that's part of my, integrity of keeping that student's confidentiality, that they had tutoring this subject. So that's something that's kind of an example of making sure that my actions consistently followed what I thought my integrity and ethics were, as well as that was, a rule of the center, of the tutoring center, was, hey, you really should not be speaking about who you're tutoring. So not only was it with me, but it was also with my employer as well. And that kind of leads in also into this idea of brand. And brand is more than just, I'm going to have a cool logo. That's my initials. And like, this is my brand. I'm going to put it on things. This is really your professional reputation. Who do I want to be seen as in my workplace? So in that last one, example is a great example of my brand. I wanted the tutoring center to know that like I took these rules seriously. I could see the importance of keeping student confidentiality. And I wanted them to know that like they could also come to me. I wanted them to know I was dependable. I was willing to figure out if a student needed help with a class I had never taken before. Like a food science class. We had a food science class that was done asynchronously. So a lot of our athletes left it to the last 3 weeks to figure out how to finish a class over a semester in 3 weeks. So I ended up teaching a lot of those, helping tutor them through really time management skills to help make sure they got done with those classes. But that's something I had never done before. And I think I got it because they knew I was dependable. They knew I was willing to learn, and they knew I was adaptable. I could handle that kind of, helping those students with this time management. But it's so brand is meeting responsibilities, meeting deadlines, accepting responsibilities. It's really making sure it's bringing in values and ethics as well, making sure at work, I am like, people think at work, my reputation of who I want to be matches what people think, right? So if there's a difference between who I think I am and what they think and what my coworkers think, I need to figure out how to change that. It's also being adaptable to be able to change your actions and be like, no, I want to make sure they know I'm going to show up when they need help. So for these 3, again, thinking about your academic work and volunteer experiences, think about a time when something went really well, right? A project went really well, a group project, a research project, just something in your life that went really well. What distinguishes, you from others? How did you help in that situation to make things go well? When you're contributing to a project, when do you feel most like yourself? And then also, what would people you have worked with say about you? So again, we're going to have about a minute. All right. So thinking about that example you just, oh my goodness. There we go. So thinking about that example you just thought of, how have you kind of give that example of how you've developed that proficiency in one of these three areas: self-awareness, integrity, ethics, or brand? Meeting deadlines. That's a really important one, right? So being able, that's your company being able to rely on you, that like, we can give this person this project, like they will let us know if they can't meet the deadlines. There'll be, communication, but also that is something that is really being reliable is very important for these employers. Working efficiently, but still producing good quality work. It's a great example. Acting as a resource for your team. An organized planner of the group. Be the person known for smooth communication and client meetings. That is a great skill to have. A really important one as well, especially if you have a lot of different clients, being able to keep, all the different projects in line. Staying true to who I am and not changing for the wrong reasons. That's an excellent answer. And being, welcoming other people's ideas, opinions and ideas, being open, having the adaptability, also the self-awareness to just, consider others' opinions when thinking about your own. Maintaining ethics and research conducted, very important for many different areas of research. Keeping confidentiality, that is a really, really important part. And being able to explain to employers, if you're applying to positions that have that confidentiality aspect, being able to explain, well, here's an example of when I kept confidentiality, obviously not telling them a lot about it, but being able to really show the your competency, your skills in that area is going to be really important for them. Perfect, thank you. Transparency, a really other great one. All right, so thinking about these 9 competencies, where have you already seen yourself grow and your time at Clemson? Whether that's been the past semester, maybe whether you're maybe a senior, you've been here 4 years. So go ahead and kind of select which one of these you feel like you've seen yourself grow. Perfect. Yeah, so we have a lot of analytical skills, right? That is a common one, being at a university, taking courses, very common to see that. Collaboration as well, right? Learning how to be in those group projects, learning how to kind of interact with others, right? Communicate with them, being adaptable. Kind of as a follow-up, where do you want to focus your growth? Like, where do you feel like you're, coming from this presentation, learning about these different aspects, like where do you want to focus on either this summer through this PDC or internships or interactions? Like, where are you hoping to most grow? To see leadership and brand, which those are ones on the last slide that actually had the fewest as well. So whether that's seeking out those leadership positions or just kind of trying to think of how you can show those leadership skills in your current groups and classes. Can be really helpful. I always tell students I meet with that introverts can be leaders too. You don't have to have that I'm going to stand in front of the group and be that designated leader, the president of the group, where that might be something very uncomfortable for you just naturally. So you can definitely help incorporate, help build up your team and show those leadership skills without having that designated leadership title. Perfect. Thank you guys for sharing. We have a couple more slides as well. So again, if you ever have questions, we are here to help you with this. We have drop-ins Monday and Wednesday, and then appointments on Monday through Thursday in the morning and the afternoon. You can make those through Clemson Job Link. We'd be happy to help if you want to talk about the competencies more and kind of how you incorporate them in like a personal statement or your interview or anything like that. We can help with that as well. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them now. But also want to put this up here as well, because you're kind of running time. If you are a part of that Career Ready Tiger professional development certificate, this is how you can, I believe Heather, they can log it.
Yes, can I chime in here, Randa?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you are a part of the Career Ready Tiger program, and if you're having any difficulty logging in with your PIN number, please email to either me or the counselor that's been assigned to you, and we'll get that taken care of. One thing that we have noticed is that some people logged in or signed in with the GDOT and or without. So if you are trying to log in with one, try that first. Try the alternate one first to see if it works with the PIN that was sent to you. But we did notice a couple of students didn't actually get a PIN. So please feel free to reach out with that question, and we'll get that taken care of for you. For those of you who are not in the program, if you have questions about that, feel free to email to me. My email is just hdc, I can put it in the chat, at clemson.edu. And that way I can answer some questions about the program for you. So let me put that in there real quick. And I think that's all that I have, but certainly ask Randa questions. I appreciate you all coming. We're looking forward to a great summer worth of presentations. And thank you, Randa, for being here.
Of course. You can either unmute if you have questions, or you can write them in the chat as well. But otherwise, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day.
Hi, Randa.
Hi.
Thank you for that wonderful presentation. I just have a question, a quick one. In the process, you're working with lots of people from different academic background, and you are this open-minded, flexible person, and you're, as a leader, you're trying to welcome their ideas as well. But in the process, some of them feel as if you're discounting yourself in the contribution. So how do you address such situation? My name is Ayodeji Peter, a graduate student from PES.
Awesome, thank you. So as I said, your question, you're kind of like, how can you, maybe when you're showing those leadership skills, you're underselling your own impact rather than like, trying to focus on the team impact? Yes,
please.
Okay, perfect. So that's something we actually see quite often. I feel like is our students, they're part of a team, they're really focusing, maybe they get that question like, tell me about a time, you worked well in the team, but at the same time, you want to focus on the team effort, but you really want to think about the things that you've done, right? You don't want to undersell yourself. And you can do that by just thinking about, where were parts that I feel like I specifically had a strong impact on, right? So maybe I'm part of the team that did a lot of the research beforehand. Like it was a team effort, but like you can split down to, okay, I specifically researched this aspect of artificial intelligence or something. So you can talk about that specific part, bringing it back to how, as a group, you successfully did it, but you really want to focus on your individual impact. That could be really helpful. And then kind of the same way as a leader, you're trying to show your leadership skills, be like, I'm going to show how I led the team and really encourage others to be a part of it as well, right? So that's a big part of leadership you can talk about, and make sure you're not underselling your leadership abilities when you're talking about your teamwork, of like, not only did I complete my part and I was reliable and I, turned in my part of the project, but I was able to really encourage those around me, and really help them with their part as well. So it kind of brings in that kind of team building, kind of keeping the group motivated aspect of that leadership. But that answered your question.
Perfectly well. Thank you very much.
Of course.
Probably a follow-up questions. Again, how do you sell your idea? Like if you ask a question as a team as well, and being the leader of that team, how do you sell your idea or the opinion that it won't look as if you're bossing them around?
Yeah, so how do you sell, maybe you're on a team and you are trying to sell your idea to the leadership that, just, come in prepared. practice your pitch of how you want to sell this idea to them. Try to really think about, the proactive, try to anticipate some of their questions. Be like, okay, if you know your leadership team or the person you're trying to sell this idea to, well, be like, okay, what would my boss say about this? And maybe if you're newer, maybe you have someone on your team that you can ask, like, hey, I want to present this idea. Can you help me figure out, how they might think about it, how I can prepare better for it? And then just come in, prepared, but come in also, maybe the response isn't yes, maybe it's not no, maybe it's, hey, that's a great idea. Let's think about how we can combine this idea with what we're already doing. So coming with that adaptability of being able to kind of, take the like go in knowing they might, like they might not say yes, they might not say no, but just, go in with a really open mind of how you could, take your idea, present it and be like, this is something I'm really interested in. And if there's ways I can be involved in the future with this project, right? So it's not only saying, here's an idea I have, but here's my interest in being involved in this as well.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, of course. Well, I will hang around for another minute or so. If you guys have any other questions or anything like that. But otherwise, have a great rest of your Thursday.
Thank you.
You too.
Okay, if no one else has any other questions, I am going to end recording and I will stop the meeting. Thank you again, Randa. I appreciate it.
Yeah.